Hi, I'm David Andersen, and I will introduce our project, Diaries During and After the Lockdown Project, a storytelling approach for communicating COVID-19 dynamics to the public. This project began on April 4th, 2020, when Ali Mashayekhi called David Andersen to discuss how best to disseminate the results from a system dynamics model of the COVID-19 pandemic that Ali had developed to brief public health officials in Iran. The next day, Palm Sunday, at a more broadly attended conference call, most of our current team was assembled and we started to work. Dan Gordon, the public health expert on our team, had the idea that this model might be best suited to communicating to the public as opposed to giving advice to governments. In the years since then, we have been working to convey insights from a system dynamics model of the pandemic to a general audience by writing diary entries in a blog-like form, refining and developing our model, and most recently developing a series of 11 modules that can be used as the basis for a curriculum aimed at students of system dynamics. This panel describes that work. The 5 members of our team are all trained as system dynamicists. We have been meeting about once a week since April of 2020, and we all collaborate on all aspects of the project. However, we each specialize a bit. Ali built the original model. David lives on New Fodham Farm, the presumed place of origin of all our stories, and writes the first drafts of the stories. Dan is a public health professional and gets the rough drafts of the stories ready to be published, adding and refining content, fact-checking, and making it all right. He also does the same careful work with all new versions of the model. Jung has been leading our efforts to convert Ali's model, now subdivided into about 11 modules, into a curriculum. Babek oversees our website and thinks about social media. We have been especially inspired and motivated by 2 persons in this project. For many years, Dana Meadows wrote 800-word columns as the global citizen to convey system dynamics insights to the general public. Garrison Keeler, the comic host of the Prairie Home Companion, had invented the mythical location of Lake Wobegon, inhabited by folksy characters whose trials and tribulations we all got to follow each week on the radio. We decided to base our diary entries on the daily lives of the residents of a place called New Fodham Farm, a small sheep farm in upstate New York. New Fodham Farm is not totally fictional, and I lived there with 3 generations of my family. Each of the diaries had a target length of 800 words, requiring that they focus on only one main point. We tried to keep each entry focused on some aspect of Ali's model, and each diary entry or story had links to an MDL version of Ali's model, plus 3 professional PowerPoint shows that Ali and Dan had created describing the technical features of Ali's original model. Each story had a title, trailer, and accompanying photograph that all appeared on the opening page of the web version of the story. The text of each story ended with a short lesson to drive home and generalize the main points being made. Some of the stories had a read more to dig deeper section that may represent some of the more technical model-based insights. In general, we try not to represent technical materials from Ali's model, despite the image that I'm showing you right now. Finally, each story seeks to tie back to some story that has occurred at New Fodham Farm. In general, each story opens with an incident at New Fodham Farm. In most cases, the story tries to use Ali's model to discuss and reflect on the incident before the story concludes with a more general lesson. Here is an example from one of the earlier stories. In this story, David and Deborah, who'd been under lockdown for some time, were feeling deprived because they'd run out of ice cream. They both felt awkward when they went out for the first time to buy ice cream. It was a real emergency, wearing their masks for the first time in public. The story got diverted by a mathematical discussion of the conditions necessary to stop the transmission of a pandemic and ended with reflections on the value of wearing masks in all public gatherings. This story had a rather extended set of general conclusions. It also has become one of the jumping off points for our curricular development efforts. As you will hear next, Ali and Dan have converted the original model plus all our technical extensions into a series of teachable modules, and Hyunjung has now written the first series of those online teaching units. This particular story was a jumping off point for one of her curricular modules. Here is an overview of the remaining topics in this session. Thank you very much for your attention.